Thank you guys. We do appreciate you coming to this session, the resurgence of the conscious black man in entertainment. You know, we hear a lot about black entertainers. We hear shut up and dribble. We hear shut up and act. You were hired to perform. Why do you have a political voice? You are not a politician. And so a lot of these things have come over the media waves. But there's a quote by Nina Simone that I think a lot of us are familiar with. And it says, an artist's duty, as far as I'm concerned, is to reflect the times. And so that's what a lot of black men in entertainment are doing. So just to give you the overview of this particular panel, in every sector and genre of the entertainment industry, from television to film to music, there has been a resurgence of black men who are no longer just doing it for the fame, but also for the culture. What does it mean for future opportunities in the industry? Is your career being impacted positively or negatively by it? And you have to understand, as artists and entertainers, it's not just you. Your agent, your manager, your publicist, your assistant whose bills you're paying. So when you step out on that ledge to be active, to be a voice, to be conscious, you have to take all of that into consideration. So right now, I want to bring out two extremely successful black entertainers who aren't, I would say, just run-of-the-mill guys. They have a voice and they're using their voice with their platforms, on social media, in person. They're here right now for this particular reason. So first, I would like to bring out comedian Roy Wood Jr. Please give him a hand. We've seen Roy kick butt and have us having belly aches, and so we are super happy that he's here with us today.
Happy to be here.
Thank you, thank you. Drink your water, drink your water. And next, I'd like to bring out Flex Alexander. What's up, y'all? Actor, comedian, he may even do some breakdancing later.
Oh, no, that's over, that's over.
You know that's how he was discovered.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't understand. They still put that in my bio that I'm a dancer. I'm like, it's been about 30 years. That's right. Yeah. Yes, sir.
And if I am distracted up here, it is due because of Affion Crockett's knees that are uncovered right now. Okay. So the ash won't distract me. So now let's jump into it. What does it mean to be a black male entertainer in today's time? Because it's completely different from when Sam Cooke was out, from when Sidney Poitier first started. So what does it mean to be a black male entertainer in today's time from your individual perspectives?
I don't think it's really that much difference. It was shielded a little better, but I think we're still dealing with the same issues, same problems, the same fight, the same uphill battle, I honestly don't think it's different. They just don't say it as up front, but we still fighting the same battle, in my opinion.
I think that, and I can only speak for myself and what I've been able to do, but I do feel like when I look back at entertainers of the past, there was a need to just gain access, just to get in, just to be seen, just to be present. If you go back to, say, a Sammy Davis Jr. or Flip Wilson and something of that era, where it's just to get on the screen, where now there's opportunities to bring more people up with you. There's opportunities to do things that can speak back to your people and inspire them as well, because we're starting to get to a point where networks are trying to give us an opportunity to tell our stories our way. But even with that comes a ton of hurdles, a ton of BS, a lot more things that you have to deal with at the corporate level. But I do think that if it's about then and now, I would say now you can be conscious of a need to supply something that feeds your people and maybe see a way through or be able to partner with someone who can help you get there.
Now, with being conscious, how does that affect your careers? Because we know how Hollywood is. And yes, exactly. So we know how Hollywood is. So being conscious, is your agent or manager saying, whoa, Flex, chill out on the tweets, and Roy, I understand you're a comedian, but we're trying to get this next Netflix deal. So how is being conscious affecting your careers, whether positively or negatively?
I mean, the positive, oh man. Yeah, it's a tough one because, you know, being conscious, I mean, we're in this era now that word is thrown out so much, but I don't think we've really, we've really gone deep to what it means. It means to be awakened, and sometimes that's uncomfortable consciousness. I don't think we've gotten completely there yet, but I haven't had my agent or manager tell me, don't say this, don't say that. I don't say too much crazy stuff anyway, but I try to make points. I try to really be mindful, you know, especially of our people, of what I do. You know, I could have definitely been a lot further, you know, sacrificing my principles, but I chose not to do that, you know, and it's. Thank you, and for me, that's what's important. As long as I can sleep at night, as long as I can, you know, see my friends, my brothers like Afion and Chris and other friends, and I can look them in the eye and have peace, you know. And the issue that's bigger for me is it's like this divisive plan. It's even though there's a rise in consciousness, there's a rise in consciousness in black men, black women, and it's taken us this way. And I think we're at a point, at a place now, people, that this whole, you know, black women strong, black girl magic, and I'm down for that. But I think black men, black women, we need each other. It's very important. There's a line being drawn, and I can see it. It's a line being drawn of, we're strong, we don't need you. It's like, well, yeah, okay, we strong too. But we need each other. We need, whether it's the black family, we need the sisters and brothers, we need black friendship. We need that. It's so important. Everything else is being stripped away from us chip by chip. Our culture, our strength, economically. I mean, we done made Popeyes $45 million. Just imagine had we focused that into something that's for the community, something that's for us, that's gonna build us, something that's gonna, you know, help generational wealth, something that's gonna help create more wealth for other people in our communities. And I think that's what is really important when you come to speak about consciousness. It's all the way around, because I don't care what anybody says, you know, I just, you know I need my sisters, I need my young brothers, and I need my young sisters. We need each other. Definitely.
I'd say for me, in terms of trying to be conscious trying to be conscious of blackness in a predominantly white space that is entertainment, I think there's two approaches. There's the unapologetically black approach, which has worked for many black creatives. And then there's the approach that I've had to take because of my relationship with Comedy Central, which is trick these white folks. And then by the time you know it was something conscious, it's too late, it's on the air.
Yes.
It already didn't happen.
That's so good.
You know, and when you look at Comedy Central as a network, you know, outside of The Daily Show, you know, where I am now, if you look at, let's just take Chappelle and Key and Peele. Those are two black shows that I feel like black America as a whole watched in spite of it being on Comedy Central. Comedy Central inherently is not a black network. It traditionally does not put on programming that black people gravitate towards. It's not a racist network, but it's just their flavor of humor isn't necessarily what we all tweet about on a regular basis. So coming into The Daily Show with Trevor wanted to do stories that were more black. He wanted to do things that were blacker, but then you also still run by, it's still a white network. So you take something where, you know, we would pitch stories about, you know, I was able to do a story about Chicago gun violence and to speak to the issue that black people don't take care of their own and black people aren't doing anything about black on black crime, which we know is a lie. But you have to present that in a packaging of something that is, hey, these people are taking care of their own. And you make it seem like it's a piece about one thing. And what I've learned in working at The Daily Show is that when you're speaking about the black experience in a white space, white people are discovering the information for the first time. What? Black people are doing that? Oh my goodness. I'm trying to figure out the quickest way to put it. White people are discovering new information. Black people need to see solutions. And those, if it's about a black issue, you already know about it. So let me show you what this group is doing to solve this problem. Whereas white people, I have to go, look, black people are doing something. So you're constantly having to serve two things at the same time. And the thing that works for me, and I feel like it gives me an opportunity to exist in a space where I can hopefully bring black people to what I'm doing, while also at the same time informing people who are ignorant to what black people are going through. Comedy Central, we shot a pilot this spring in my hometown of Birmingham, and it'll probably be another month or two before I know whether or not it goes to series, but the television show is about 2 probation officers handling their caseload in a southern city. I was on federal probation for 3 years as a teenager for mail theft, and the probation officer that I had, his leniency is the only reason I was able to pursue comedy and be sitting up here 20 years later. So recidivism, a lot of it boils down to the decisions of one person. It boils down to the judge, to having a lawyer who gave a damn, or a PO who actually cared enough to help you stay out of jail instead of coming up with reasons to put you back in jail. So to get a message like that across to a network like Comedy Central, they're not gonna take that from me. So I was able to partner with Aaron Magruder. And this is where working with people that have already existed in those spaces, sometimes having a partnership can help. And the way we ended up selling the show and getting the show sold wasn't on the merits of probation and recidivism. We simply said, it's a police procedural. It's 2 law enforcement officers solving a problem in 30 minutes. That can be understood in levels that I feel like white people or people who aren't sympathetic to black issues can understand. They'll buy that show because, hey, look, it's not police, it's not the courtroom, it's not jail, but it's still law enforcement. This is different. It's never been on TV before. And they go, yeah, let's do it. And then we go sit in the room and go, let's write a script about what happens when you go to jail. And then so you can get woke the moment you get access.
Yes. So what you're saying is that you have to be a creator, an entertainer, and a strategist at the same time.
That's what I choose to be, but then you also have a show called Dear White People that everybody loves, and there ain't nothing slick about that. They're like, no, this is about y'all. But it's just for the network work. But that's also Netflix, and Netflix gives black creatives a lot more leeway and a lot more room to do things that are a little more dynamic. I'm on a network that in the past 10 years has only had 2 hit black shows, 3 if you count Daily Show with Trevor. So it has to be a different approach for me.
So you two didn't just get in the game yesterday. So a lot has happened with this current political climate. Has this current political climate forced you to be more visibly conscious? Has it affected your careers in any way, or projects that you perhaps want to then push forward?
I mean, for me, I wouldn't say any projects, but from my stand-up, we've gotten into a sensitive space now. Everything is so sensitive. I don't know how many of you, if you haven't seen Chappelle's Sticks and Stones, it is a schooling of stand-up, in my opinion, at its best. It's a conversation, and it's also funny. It's uncomfortable, but it's also enlightening. And I just think we're in the place of just being sensitive. You cannot say anything about anyone except nigga. Yeah, that's okay to say. You can say that all day, but I think comedy is supposed to be. I started stand up in '89, and it was a whole another ball game. You know what I'm saying? A whole nother ball game. And I'm not saying you be gratuitous in it, whether you're talking about a particular person, whatever, but you at least had the freedom to go up, and people laughed because you were saying the stuff that they wanted to say. Now you say a joke and it's like, oh yeah, I saw a midget. Ooh, you can't say midget. Or a little person, you gotta say this, a dwarf. I'm just using an example, so please, I hope nobody sees it. Just an example. And now it's like, oh, you hear it over the audience. And it's uncomfortable for me, as a writer and wanting to be creative. It's forced me to grow even more as a stand-up and talk about more things true to life, my family, my kids, going through the stuff that I've gone through in the business. It's forced me to really get creative in that sense, because now I can talk about myself and my family and it's cool. But if you step out of that, it just seems to be more sensitive these days. And with, this Cheeto skin president, he is just, I'm sorry, see, even y'all say, ooh. He's given that license to just, everybody can say it now, and you can just, I'm just gonna tell you something, white folks getting out of line. I'm telling you, I was at a restaurant eating, having a conversation with a friend I hadn't seen in a while. We kind of grew up together, and I'm like, oh, man, we laughing, and the lady taps the waiter, excuse me, they're talking too loud, and I can't hear my conversation. And I'm like, I'm not gonna tell you what I said after that. But just the fact that she was comfortable enough to say that, I've had several incidents where it's out of line, and I just think we're at a place now where he's opened that up, and I don't know whether it's, I don't know what you think, whether it's been there, but now it's like, they're like, oh yeah, we can say it now. Or, you know what I mean? Like that kind of effect, but it has, it's become more sensitive, and I think this climate is lending to that politically and otherwise.
I think that because there is more tension, there is an opportunity to tell more stories and things that speak to those issues. If you look at, and I can only speak to comedy, I can't really speak to drama, but if you look at the comedies, the scripted comedies that are on television now with black leads, a lot of them are reactionary to things that may be happening within the culture, and that's a good thing. A show like Blackish is there to show a positive black imagery of family at a time where, honestly, and this started under Obama, where there was a lot of slander and hatred about just black people just living well and doing well and existing. Insecure, I don't think, is a show that happens 10 years ago, or gets greenlit, should I say, 10 years ago. But when you look at the rise of the black woman, or at least people finally opening their eyes to what black women are going through, and there to be a show that can walk you through plot by plot what is happening in 3 or 4 different forms of blackness. That's the other thing that I think is great now. When you look at the type of blackness that's on television, it's not all in one box. It's not just Cosby or just Martin. There is various, because let's be real, there's some black shows that you see on TV you don't watch. You be like, I don't hang with them type of black people. But the mere existence of that show is in and of itself progress, in my opinion. And I think that politically, there's a show right now that's on CBS with Said the Entertainer called The Neighborhood. The Neighborhood is about a black family that moves into a white neighborhood, and you got the white neighbor coming over asking a million questions about black shit, and that's pretty much what the show is. And it's great. It's a great show, and that's not a show that happens 10 years ago, but that show is a byproduct of the real black experience, the black middle class. As we start moving into these spaces where white people once reigned supreme, black people getting a little success, getting some degrees, getting some money, so white people got questions. So that's... There was an episode where the white lady asked Tashina Arnold's character about weave. They did a whole episode just about weave and wigs, and it was very interesting to see. And I just think that where we are in race relations, I just think that that's the type of stuff that wouldn't have happened if we weren't starting to pay some level of attention to each other. And weren't trying to react and are also trying to react. And to go back to Dear White People, that is a show that is a direct answer to the type of ignorance that Flex was dealing with in the restaurant.
You both mentioned that you basically have shifted gears when doing your work as an entertainer. Flex mentioned that he has to write differently now. You have to make sure that you don't offend a certain demographic. Roy mentioned that he has to pitch a certain way to a network and then go in the room and then write. What are the advantages and disadvantages of being a black male in entertainment right now in this current climate?
Having to explain your culture to people that are deciding on whether or not it gets exposed. That's probably the most difficult part of it, is that pitch. You're pitching in rooms to people who aren't even familiar with what you're doing and what you're going through, and without getting long and drawn into it, but Afion knows. I pitched a movie idea, and part of it is something similar to what was going on with the craze with the patty pies and all of that stuff 2 years ago. You say patty pie, everybody in this room, boom, you're on board. And we sat and talked for 30 minutes about this idea and this project and family and everything, and it's just one white lady in the corner curious, and at the end of the whole meeting, she just goes, "What is a patty pie?" And just this lack of knowledge of blackness, and so you have to start from such a faraway place and walk yourself up into the point of what it is you're trying to sell, what it is you're trying to get across to people, or completely omit it and say nothing about it, and know that on the back end that you'll infuse the show with that, which goes back to the whole probation show idea. Which we never, when Aaron Magruder and I pitched the show, we never mentioned recidivism. We never talked about how there's more black people on probation than in jail. Like there's just, the whole Meek Mill fiasco and everything. So to be able to go in and just talk strictly about, here's a buddy comedy about two law enforcement officials who are just riding around the neighborhood. And this is a show that is black. We shot it in Birmingham. We hired black crew. The intention is to show a real black experience. I probably need a handheld if you got one. The intention is to show the real black experience. But you can't say all of that in the room when you're pitching to white people because it's too much. You just have to go, it's a show about two people helping people.
Okay.
I'm serious. That's how we sold the show.
That's a true story.
That's how we sold the show. This is two law enforcement officials who, what would happen if two law enforcement officials actually cared about the community and leave race out of it? And then they say, yes, go make the show, and then you write a show where 14 of the 15 characters in the pilot are black, and they all got speaking lines. But you can't, but I just choose not to. Like I said, I'd rather trick.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like that, with one-on-one, it was like that. I remember sitting in the room, a lot of people don't know that I created the show. I pitched it. Oh, thank you. I pitched the show. I saw Kyla in the commercial. I said, I want that girl to play my daughter. Went through the process, and you start pitching, and once we got going, you're in the rooms, with the network in the studio. There's different sets of notes. You got the studio notes, you have the network notes, and half of the time they're ridiculous. And they're trying to tell me what it's like to be a black father raising a black daughter. It's like, would you really do that as a black father? So you're successful in this show? You're a successful man in this? Yeah, like what do you want me to be, you want me to go back to damn. I was like, he's a sportscaster. He had an NBA career. This is what happened. He got injured. He transitioned into this, and he's successful, and he's raising his daughter. And the purpose of that show, I wanted to show that black single fathers matter. They're important. They are out there. I've got so many brothers come up to me that say, man, that is the time for my daughter and I. Man, we sit down. That's my life. That's what I went through. And And we wanted to show that, yeah, you can have your ex or whatever, you have your little squabbles, but you get along and you make it work. It's not always have to be, man, I can't stand that Negro and da-da-da. It don't have to be that. And my intention was to show that. And the show came about because a friend of mine from Harlem was a teenage father, and we used to laugh like, yo, how you gonna get out? How you gonna hang out? How you gonna rap the girls and all that stuff? Because his life totally changed. And that was the purpose of that. But sitting in the rooms trying to pitch that and tell stories and have 55-year-old white guys telling us, that's not believable, blew my mind. And they say it with no equivocation. They have no problem. They said, yeah, I don't believe that. No, you would not believe the stuff I've heard in these rooms, and they're very comfortable in saying it. But that's why I fought for that show. And in the last season, when they wanted to transition and go into, my daughter going away to California, it's like, oh yeah, Brianna should have sex now, and she should be. And I fought and I just chose to, I said, this isn't the show that I pitched, and I said, and I told them, I said, it's gonna fail, and not being cocky, but I just knew you can't take away, my best friend on the show, Kelly, you can't take away Cicely, who played Brianna's best. Those are the ingredients, and those are the things that people fell in love with, and you started to change it, and then remix the song with the Yin Yang Twins. I'm like, I mean, nothing against the Yin Yang Twins, but it's a whole nother show, So yeah.
So constantly having to explain your blackness is exhausting. How do you guys take care of yourself? What are your outlets? How do you really take care of yourself?
Man, let me tell you something. I start my day and I end my day with meditation. I start my day every day with meditation, every day. I have to find that center. I got to slow everything down, and then I just go through the day. I'm not saying it's ends up perfect. People think you're meditating, you're just walking and floating on, cotton balls or something. It's not like that. I just do that to find that center and just keep me in a good space. I do that, play golf, obviously, and those things, give me peace. And I try not to think so much about, what I have to fight in the industry, and I just try to be thankful and all the, the gratitude in the world, although it gets tough, but I just try to stay centered so I can, I can handle it.
I like, I enjoy trying to stay connected to my friends. As you get older, friendship becomes more of an effort. It's something that you have to almost schedule in terms of just reaching out and being in touch with people. I try to, when I'm doing stand up, I try to add a day on the front or back end of a trip to maybe go see a partner from college that I, didn't have a chance. Like I was in Jacksonville and I drove down to Orlando for the day to see an old FAMU buddy. Like that's stuff that I have to actively schedule. For me, I enjoy just talking to new comedians, talking to the future of the industry, the people coming behind me, because I think interacting with them reminds me of what I'm doing this for. There's a little more of I have more of a disconnect from my own fate in entertainment and more of a realization that everything that I'm doing is just for somebody else to get through the door, which is fine. And there's my own personal gains and wins that'll come from that. But at the end of the day, I feel like what I'm trying to do is to make it easier for someone else, so maybe they don't have to explain their blackness when they get in the room 10 years or 15 years after me, because there would have been reference points and source material that you could point to and go, oh no, that show got made, so we'll feel more comfortable doing this show. So there's less explaining that has to happen.
It seems to be an underlining theme throughout this particular summit about giving back and bringing other people in, leaving the door open. And an interesting story about Flex. I did a show with Flex years ago, and Flex, had on all the stage makeup, and it was kind of weird. And he came up and he was just like, hey, Oh, sorry.
I don't remember that story.
He was like, how you doing? And he was getting mic'd up, and he was, I mean, just really, and I was like this little skinny, big smile cat, like just happy to be on stage with celebrities back in the day, and just him taking time out to talk to the other actors on set. So I see it, and even with Roy, when the flyer went out, friends hit me up like, oh, you want me to put you on a group chat with Roy? I was like, no, don't just be giving his number out like that. But he was like, oh, no, Roy's cool. Like that's how they do. So it is.
Everybody got my number. Everybody got my number.
Yeah.
Which ain't good, because them young comedians be texting at 3 a.m. and my girlfriend, she'd be like, who is that? I'd be like, I don't know. But it's the truth, I really don't know.
So I said that just to say that they are a representation of that underlining theme that's been happening throughout the conference. Like talking to younger comedians, they got your number. And in LA, folks just don't, and it's just Hollywood period, you're just not gonna get anybody's number. I mean, well, everybody's getting Roy's apparently, but you just don't get everybody's number. And so they're the living example of what the underlining theme is about going through, leaving the door open. It's like, getting Kylan's show and creating that formula, and how Roy, 15 character show and then 14 black. It's like they're doing it, and you don't see it as much. And I know a lot of people saying, well, how does the industry react to that? Like, how is Comedy Central acting to you bringing in all these black characters and you just pitch this cop procedural? And with Flex, it's like how they go. Are they looking at you like, are you the entertainment Harriet Tubman? Are you just bringing these people in? What is the industry saying?
I think for me, I'm old school. I came up under, and I was fortunate enough to be under the Chris Rocks, the Martin Lawrence, the Will Smiths, the guys who at the time actually would teach you and tell you things, not just about stand-up, but just about the industry, just about how you last. Like when I go on set, I make sure I introduce myself to everyone from craft service to wardrobe to maintenance to everyone. I learn their names, I look them in their eyes, I ask them how the day is. My set was one of the best sets ever. We had fun on that set. Everyone that came had fun, and it was just a welcoming thing. That's just how I was raised in the industry, and it's how I was raised at home. My grandmother was, a staunch believer in that. So I look at that, and going back further, and you look at, we talk about Eddie Murphy, we talk about Richard Pryor, but Red Fox. If you go back further to, I hate to say the name, but Step and Fetch It. The things that he had to do and endure, and he was actually a very, very intelligent man, one of the wealthiest guys of that time. And what they had to do, the doors they kicked down, the Dick Gregorys, who kicked those doors down for the Richard Pryors, for the Red Fox, for the Eddie Murphys, and then on up. The tough thing, though, is we've gotten into, this now. This means everything. You got 1 minute of something funny on here, and now you are the man or the woman. And you have comedians. I don't have an issue with the new wave because it is what it is. I was talking to Afion last night, and we're like, hey, man, you got to adapt to it, and I get it, but it's the attitude behind the adaptation. And some of the young comedians that I've talked to have this attitude like, man, I got 2 million followers. You only got 400,000. Like, you can't tell me anything, but can you get on stage and do 35 minutes? If they ask you to do 40 minutes, can you do it? If they ask you to cut stuff out, can you do that? You know what I mean? Can you get in front of a room of 11 people and do 40 minutes? That was my training ground in New York. I would go to the Comedy Cellar. I'd be in there with Ray Romano at 1 a.m. performing for 8 people, like it was 500. So that when I got in front of 500, I wasn't worried. So some of that with the newer generation, it's a problem because this edifies them. That one day, I think it was a few months ago, when Instagram went down, a lot of jobs were gone. All the Instagram models, it was over. it was done. It was panicking, you know. So, you know, people like Roy, myself, like, you know, Afion, and, you know, a lot of these comics, we came up in a time where you had to put the work in, and it stood beyond a telephone, beyond a social media platform. It's putting that work in. The years I would get in a minivan with cats from the Uptown Comedy Club back in the day, and we just jump on 95 and do colleges all up and down 95 and go back up. And it was fun, but it was building that muscle and it was building that character. And that, for me, is what I think they're missing now. Some of this generation is missing. So I do talk to a lot of them. Some of them, like I said, are funny because if I'm not hot right now, they're not gonna listen to me. But I remember this comedian laughed at me at the Laugh Factory because I had a pen and a pad. And he was like, yo, you got a pen and a pad? You writing your jokes on a pen and a pad? I'm like, yeah. Because he was writing his on his phone, or his iPad. And I really felt old. I was like, wow. But I guess that's where we are. And but I'm a big proponent of giving back and just being kind. Thank you.
I think you just have to help the ones that are willing to listen. I'm not here to preach to anybody that's coming up behind me. If you got a question, I'll answer it. But I'm not here to preach to if you think you have it figured out and you think you have another way of doing this, go do it. You might be right. I just know that for me, when I started, two things really happened that were really beneficial for me. Number one, when I started in morning radio in Birmingham, I took over after Ricky Smiley left to go start what would become his syndicated show that we know today. And so Ricky Smiley in Birmingham is God, period, point blank. My name Lil Daryl. You ain't gonna never be bigger than Ricky Smiley. He's Ricky Smiley. He was first. But what Ricky did that was important, I didn't know Rick, but what he did, anytime he got on television, he said Alabama. He'd say Birmingham. And that, it's so minuscule, but that, as being a child of Birmingham, to know that somebody that lived 2 exits up the freeway from me was on cable doing the damn thing, it gave me all the hope in the world that I could do it too. And so that's why I try my damnedest anytime I'm on television to say Birmingham, to say Alabama, so I can speak back to anybody that lives in the parts they disregard and know that what you have matters. And I feel like Ricky, without even knowing it, inspired an entire wave of Alabama entertainers. The other thing that was key for me, when I first moved to Los Angeles, I was taking acting classes at a predominantly white acting school, and on the wall, they have all the different classes that have come before you, and it's all white people, and there's always one black person. And I'm going through the pictures, and I'm looking at all the black people to see if I recognize any of them, and I recognize Aisha Tyler. And I sent this sister a disrespectfully long email, like it was 8 paragraphs of just questions. And she replied and she answered every damn one of them. And she didn't know me from Adam. And that was something that kind of set me forward on a path of, if anybody cares enough or is bold enough to ask a question, it's because they want to know. So you help the ones who want to be helped. So that's always been my approach. And that makes me fearless when I'm in a room with Comedy Central when it comes down to casting and they ask, do you want your co-lead on this show? Have you considered maybe a white woman for the, well, no, this is a show about probation. We're gonna be in the hood. You can't have a white lady helping black women. Like, even though I'm sure that happens, of course it happens, but that's not the optics that I want to put out there. I want a black woman helping black women, helping trans, like that's what I want. So you're able to stand tall in those conversations because you hang around the youngins and you know what it is you're fighting for. And thankfully, I tell you something else, and Flex could probably speak to this too, is that Netflix really changed the game. Netflix really leveled the playing field on the type of content that could get created because so much black content that is created in America is consumed overseas. And Netflix started creating shows that basically put their foot on the necks of all of the other cable networks into actually doing things that are more diverse. So now, whether or not Comedy Central is sincere about it or not, you got to get in the diversity game, pimp, because if you ain't got no blackness on your channel, you're going to get roasted for that.
Right?
Yeah.
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 Black Twitter isn't too apologetic in their dragging of networks who don't represent us. And so, do you consider yourself a role model? And was that title bestowed upon you, or did you step into it willingly?
I don't know. The word role model scares me because there's no perfection here, at all. I just try to do the best I can. If there are people or kids that look up to me or whatever, I mean, I'm thankful for it. But I won't go out and you won't hear me say, yeah, now I'm a role model. You won't hear me say that. But I accept what comes along with, what we do, what I do. I accept that because it's important. It is important for young black girls, young black boys to see that. Now that's the gratification I get because I still go back home to the Bronx, to my junior high school. I still go there, talk to kids, and it's changed so much. Half of them don't know who I am because this is way past the time. But still, I found it important because, I learned a lot there. My high school, same thing. I had one teacher, my African American studies teacher, who changed my life and made me really find out who I am. And he told me, your history doesn't start with slavery, it was interrupted by it. And
Please quote that and tag him.
Yes, and that changed my life. I started studying about ancient Kemet, which is now called Egypt. I started studying about women who ruled, women who were pharaohs, the system that we were on, the ecosystem, what we taught, who we taught, how we opened our arms to anyone that came, and we taught and we loved, and we were pillaged and so forth and so on, and knowledge taken. But I say that to say that changed my life and made me want to say, I want to know who I am. Actually, next July, I'm going to Egypt for 15 days. I'm going to visit the pyramids, everything, and I'm excited. I'm excited. So hopefully when I come back from that, I'll be a role model.
I just try to lead by example, man. I'll never wear the hat of role model or mentor. That's another one that I get asked sometimes.
Do you ever call you Unc?
Yeah, I get called Unc. What's going on, Uncle Roy? I'm like, man, ain't no uncle. And then I go in the mirror and I see them grays. I'm like, yeah, probably approaching uncle status. I learned, my father died when I was 16, so a lot of the lessons that I learned from black men came from the black men that I opened for on the road as a teenager going into my early 20s. So I just watched those brothers. I just watched how they dressed, their approach to the comedy club managers, how they handled hecklers, how they just handled themselves. I would go out to dinner and go out to lunch with them and would just be a fly on the wall. I wouldn't say a lot, and I learned in those regards. So I just try to be conscious of when someone that is coming up behind me is around me and how I carry myself and how I may act or talk about certain things. And I hope that somewhere in there, some osmosis or something is happening with that younger person. But to wear the hat and to carry that responsibility, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what the process is of being a mentor other than just giving somebody your phone number and being positive when they call.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if there's anything that can be learned through just direct questions, I'm not a role model, I'm accessible. So I'm that, and if that can help somebody, then so be it.
You guys, can we please give Flex and Roy a hand? Thank you. So we're going to start the Q&A portion soon, but there are a couple of ground rules. It's Q&A, question and answer. question and answer. This is not the time for a pitch. Roy just said everybody's got his number. Get it later. And so be mindful of that. So start now thinking about your questions. Afion is going to say something right now, and then we're going to jump into the Q&A.
This is just to the point of what you asked him about role model. To his point about Ricky Smiley in Birmingham, Flex was my role model. I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Hey, 2-6, you already know what it is. we in here though. So if you know anything about Fayetteville, North Carolina, and thank God for J. Cole now, right? Dreamville, he's doing a big thing, right? But when I was there, before J. Cole, before anyone made it out, all we had was TV. So there was no real connection to how am I gonna get on this TV? I'm a dancer first. My nickname at home is Flex, because I'm skinny, my bones is rubber, and that's just what I was. I didn't even know about him yet, right? Then I see this man who's a dancer. I watched all the dance videos. I saw Crystal Waters, all these different videos. And I saw him as a dancer, and then I learned his name was Flex too, and I was like, oh snap, this dude's name is Flex, and he's in the videos. I would love to be in videos. Then I see him on Apollo doing stand-up. Then I see him on Def Comedy Jam doing stand-up. He's the reason I put the connection to say, oh, I can be a dancer and a comedian and get on TV, and his name is Flex. So whether he wanted to be a role model or not, listen, I'm not even trying to be funny. Like, without him, without people like him, I would not have known that I could do it. So there was some young men that came in earlier and took pictures with me and Flex. They would have never known who I was had he not been who he was. So had there been no Ricky Smiley, there would be no Roy Wood Jr. from Birmingham, Alabama. So that's my tidbit to role models. And whether you choose to be or not, you are a role model to somebody who's watching. So conduct yourself the right way.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man.
And since we're shouting our hometown, shout out to Memphis, Tennessee. All right, come on, brother.
Oh no, the South Bronx, the South Bronx, the South Bronx.
Oh God.
Okay, so we're gonna
York
kick
is
off
so
the Q&A. The mic is in the back. So if you guys want to probably line up so we can do this efficiently and in order, get these questions, no pitches, no asking for Roy's number. Trying to be Flex number 3. We're here.
How y'all doing, fellas? You can hear me?
I do.
Yeah, it's on.
Hello? All right,
Yeah.
I'm Deshaun. I'm from Harlem, New York.
Yes,
So
sir.
Flex. All right, first I want to say I appreciate you guys, especially you comedians, because like you guys are the most open, most vulnerable people I've seen on TV, and you guys told me how to just be open and be able to explore the world and just be myself. So I appreciate you guys for that. You guys are definitely role models and underappreciated. So big shouts out to y'all. But my question for Flex. So right now in Harlem, it's kind of feel like every time I'm in college right now, so every time I go back home, it feels different. Something is always changing, and we're losing the neighborhood. It's the black people being forced out. So I want to question you. What do you think needs to be done in terms of the community, just to hold on to what we have and then just build it back up to where we were before? Because Harlem, we're losing it right now.
That's a good question, man. I honestly, man, it's a tough one. I don't know the answer to what we have to do now. I could say, let's get together, let's band together, but obviously, you know, we haven't been able to do that, or else we wouldn't be losing Harlem. I was there in the beginning of that. You know, when Bill Clinton got his office up there, I was like, trouble. That and Starbucks is over. You see Starbucks or Whole Foods,
Gotcha.
they got you. You gone.
It's real.
It's real. You know, then I saw the white ladies walking puppies, and I said, it's over. It's done. I saw it happening slowly, and I'm mad at myself in a sense because back then, you know, when I first really started coming into money and making money, I wasn't thinking. I had advisors saying, hey, you should buy brownstones, you should do this, do that. You know, the brownstones were $200,000, $300,000 at the time. And what happened as they started to come into Harlem, they started going door to door and offering people who haven't seen like cash like that. They say, hey, we got 150,000 for you cash, and they see that and not understand the value of what they have. And now brownstones are 3.5, some 4 million in Harlem. So I don't know honestly what it is we can do now to get that back, because I was just there and I know what you're talking about. It's now they're trying to call it Northern Manhattan, NoHo, and I'm like, no. There was a time that they wouldn't even cross 110th Street at all, at all, and now, you know, establishments that are there that have been there, black establishments, if they do the same things they used to do, like play music outside, they get complaints, and you know they're told to shut down a neighborhood that's inherently ours, our culture, you know. But that's what they do. It's happening everywhere, so it's not just Harlem. Yeah, man. Real quick, we'd love to see some sisters ask some questions for us. Thank you so much. Yeah, there we go. All right.
Hi, my name is Jordan Purvis. My question is, I attend SUNY Fredonia, which is like northern in Buffalo. Basically, my question is, I attend a predominantly white institution where, you know, I had to tell people why it's not okay to say the N-word, you know, how it feels to be the only black person in the classroom. And throughout your careers, have you guys been the people to like shut up and dribble, or, you know, shut up and just act? Did you guys, you know, speak out a lot? Did you guys be that person, that voice for the entire community of black people?
Right. You know, I'll jump into that before for what.
Yeah, anybody can ask.
Yeah, undergrad I went to an HBCU, and then I moved to Los Angeles and went to school, and my class was all white. And so the first day of school, getting my second degree is in acting, so I'm in acting school, and the teacher said, to be an actor, you're supposed to have superior analytical skills. So you guys had orientation with each other all weekend. Now tell me about your classmates. And so the teacher's like, who would like to go first to be analyzed? And, you know, I just graduated from an HBCU. I was like, I'll go first, I'll sit down. And then the guy raised his hand. He was like, well, Justin seems very whitewashed. And I can tell he grew up in the suburbs around white people. And honestly, I didn't know what whitewash meant. There was one black girl in the class from Miami. And so I looked at her to figure out, how am I supposed to react to this? Because the entire class just, everybody's clutching pearls, a teacher is turning red, and I'm just like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And she looked like, and I said, could you explain that? And then he explained what it meant, and he was so proud in his explanation of I had no connection to my black history, my black culture. So, and I then explained it in a way that got the message across, but it's difficult. But you continue. You have to do it. And just like Roy said, you have to educate these people. Some are ignorant on purpose, and some really do want to learn. And sometimes that looks exactly the same. So you really have to then go in and do your explanation. Because once again, you are representing the culture, and I'm proud to represent the culture. I'll educate you all day long on who I am and who we are as a people. And so, though I was offended, I educated and then went on my way.
Speak your piece at that school short of expulsion. Speak your piece. And when it gets tiring and when it gets frustrating, find the people in your circle, in your family, in your friends. If you have to go online and replenish your soul with people that are going through the same battles as you, so that you know you're not alone and thinking the way you think and feeling the way you feel. And some people are not going to ever understand. And you also have to make peace with that as well. There are some people that are just out to just antagonize and poke the stick at us and make us feel like our opinions and positions are not valid. Those people couldn't be any more wrong, brother. Stay strong, man. Mm-hmm.
Hello, my name is Kyrie, graduate of HBCU, Delaware State University. Flex, you may have visited there, I don't know.
What's
and did like a media,
Delaware
State
State.
University.
Oh, Delaware State, yeah,
Delaware
back
State.
in the day.
Yeah, 95, you was talking about
Yeah.
that, so I connected. But my question is, I'm interested in how the platform you both have earned has changed your mindset. So my question is, does your mind transform to being a culture agent rather than in comparison to being a personal agent? So now are you creating content for the culture, everybody that's here, or are you creating it for yourself? Like, what is it? What comes first? That's what I'm asking.
Ooh. Oh, that's a good question. I think it's a little of both. I think you when you as a creator, I know Roy, myself, all of us, we're very creative people. So I think initially we definitely create for ourselves, and we think, man, that's funny. I think that's funny, and and then you start to build out from there. And then there are times where I go, like with one-on-one, I thought about how would my people receive this. It's important for them to see this. They should see a single father, and I think that was one of the things that drove me to making sure that it was made and was done the way that it was done. Smart comedy, funny comedy. We tackled topics, subjects. So yeah, I do think you become an agent in a sense for yourself, but also for your culture.
I think that if you're only creating content that you believe people want to consume, you'll never be authentic, because you'll always be creating for the trends and what the flavor of that particular zeitgeist is. You have to speak from your soul and speak to things that entertain you and things that are interesting to you. And then from that, the way you present it in a way to make it interesting to other people and make them give a damn about something that they may not have thought 2 times about before that. The fact that Jordan Peele is perceived as essentially a comedic performer and comedic writer, it was like, no, y'all gonna get this racism horror movie. And now as a result of that, you see more race-based psychological stuff starting to get greenlit. Get Out started that trend. There was nothing in the zeitgeist that said, we want some creepy racism horror movie. He spoke from his heart, and by doing that, created a new trend himself by speaking from his heart.
Man, such an honor to be here before you, brothers. My question is about the field of entertainment. One of the things that you all brought up was about Netflix and how it opened the field up. And so one of the things that I've been taking a look at and really watching in the world of entertainment is Tyler Perry and his studios, right? And really trying to understand what will that mean, if anything, for African Americans who are looking for a studio that can cater around culture and really deliver some of the content that many of us are looking to see. What does that, do you all think that moves the needle for us as a culture as we think about Tyler Perry Studios and what they're saying that they want to do at that place?
I think Tyler Perry, what he's done and is doing has been great. I think there's room for many other Tyler Perrys. I think it's individual based on what you really set out to do. There can be other studios. I think he's set a bar in a sense. I went to a screening of his, and he had this show. I can't remember what it was, but it was an all-white cast. It was not Heaven Have Nots. It was something South something. It was with Heather Locklear and the guy Bo from
White.
Yeah, it was white, yeah. Bo. He played Bo Duke on Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah, I'm dating myself there. But anyway, watched it, and it was a predominantly white cast. Watched it, and it was like, okay, there was some things I saw, and I was like, okay, cool. So he talks after, and he just says, hey, we shot, 12 episodes in 8 days, And I think the model he's using is saying that, hey, we don't have to take all this time to shoot. The flip side for me is, he said it. He said, man, you get 1-2 takes, boom, and you move on. The flip side for me is I don't want to suffer quality for quantity. And not saying that that's, his stuff isn't quality. I'm just saying that I believe in taking the time to do things a different way, or if you need 3 or 4 takes or whatever the case may be, because sometimes you can get caught in the system of churning things out and they don't come out the way you intend them to. So for him, what he's done and the mark he's made and making movies for no higher than $5 million, I think that's a great model because you're always guaranteed a return, and with his audience, you're going to get that. So that's why I think it's great for other filmmakers and other people to, there is room to start that. I just talked to a company last week. And we're not done with the deal yet, but they asked me to be president of a company that they're putting together, and it's all black venture capitalists, and they have money, and they're like, listen, this is what we want to do, and it's important for them for our content. And I was surfing on Netflix, and I saw a lot of movies. There's one called Fanatic. There's another one with Tasha Smith. I'm seeing more and more, movies, little independent movies, 1.2 million dollar movies popping up on Netflix. And I'm like, that's great. And then you look over, you have UMC, which is a streaming service with all black programming. And I'm like, that's awesome. So we're definitely progressing that way. And I think, you give us another 5 years, we'll have, another 3 or 4 Tyler Perrys, in my opinion. Or I hope so, because we definitely need the content out there.
I think the important thing that Tyler Perry proved from the jump is that if you have your own IP, then you have control of your destiny. If you look at Tyler Perry's origin was theater. It was live theater. He traveled the South doing live theater, sleeping in his car. Plays became so popular that he was able to turn those stage plays into movies. So for as long as we have black creators that are going out and creating their own content, they will eventually have the opportunities to get something that's a little more linear and different from Tyler Perry. Issa Rae is probably the best example right now, where you have a young woman that's making YouTube videos in her living room, no makeup, no lights, and she rolls that into Insecure and then casts a gang of women who are all amazing. There's 3 or 4 of the writers from Insecure that have their own studio deals now. Natasha Rothwell, that was on that show, has her own development deal with HBO right now. Issa Rae is the one who greenlit Robin Thede Black Lady sketch show that's also on HBO. And all this came from somebody sitting in their living room with no lights, with a basic-ass camera, and just with a good idea. And I think for as long as we have creatives, we will have more opportunities to get more control and access in the studio and eventually have our own studio systems and more Tyler Perry's, like Flex said.
Last question. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melina Cunningham Anderson, and 20 years ago when I was a news anchor in Birmingham, Roy Wood Jr., Ricky Smiley, Ebony Steele, and Buck Wild were on the radio, so it's great to see that you've grown up to be a role model,
Well,
and yes,
you,
you are. But so I wanted to say, I'm glad to see the consciousness in entertainment, and the young man before me almost stole my question, but I wanted to know, how are you all thinking about, or if you're thinking about transitioning from being the creators to being the owners and not waiting for someone to greenlight your projects, but you greenlight the projects?
Well, yeah, definitely. That goes in part to what I was saying about this company that I'm soon to be a part of, president of that company, and that is the direction I want to move into. We have the dollars to create the content, and that next step is into ownership of your distribution, because there's so many steps. The funny thing is he was talking about it earlier. He mentioned, foreign. They always, when you do movies, they always say, oh, black doesn't sell foreign. It doesn't sell. We need Tom Cruise. And it's not true. Like, they completely devour our culture. So there are distribution deals you can do with, the Walmarts, the Targets, Redbox. You can even do them, with Netflix. They buy a lot of content. But, what? You got a duck quacking?
There was our time.
What kind of chime is that?
Black Enterprise is known for timeliness, so I set a timer on my phone to make sure that we were
Professional.
That was a duck. That was a sick Aflac duck. But anyway, yes, that's the direction I want to move into, to ownership, definitely. And I think this is a step, because once this is solid, I can do the projects that I want to do, and not just for me. When I say I, bring in the people I know bring in the talented casting directors, bring in the directors who haven't gotten a shot, bring in the DPs, bring in the script supervisors, bring in the set dressers. All those things are important because that's on my show. That's what we had. We had a predominantly black crew, you know, and I wanted it that way because I wanted it to reflect who I was, and not only who I was, who Kyla was, and not just Kyla, ABC, all the way down the line. So I'm definitely leaning towards that. And again, once this happens and goes through, that's going to be my next step.
Yeah. And I think to Flex's point with regards to that, and even coming back to Tyler Perry a little bit, if you have content, you have control. Mm-hmm. So for me, the MO right now is to take the opportunities that I have with Comedy Central and create more scripted content and set a lot of it in Alabama. And the more you shoot in a place, the more that place starts growing. Netflix just bought for $90 million a studio space in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that was built 10 years ago after Vince Gilligan started doing Breaking Bad. And that television show singularly started that market in Albuquerque. And now they have, I think, 8 sound stages, and Sony is getting ready to build there, and NBC is getting ready to build there. Albuquerque essentially is going to become the West Coast version of Atlanta, like Atlanta West, in terms of building studio space, and that was done through content. So for me, if I can get 1 show on, or I can get 2 shows on, then I can get 3 shows on. And much like the way Tyler Perry steered everything to a space in Atlanta, that becomes a mission for me to start breaking ground on things in Alabama. But then there's also a level of politics that is separate and apart. And if you think white Hollywood is hard, try Dylan with them Alabamians down in Montgomery. And that's a whole separate battle. And back to the original point about tricking people about what something is, the way that I've been trying to get the film and tax incentive raised in Alabama is not on the grounds of race, but on the grounds of jobs and employment statewide. And that's something that benefits broke white people too. So you have to make sure broke white people are on board. And so that's the long play. But for now, you just need to get 1 show on, and you get the 1 show on, and you shoot in Alabama with Alabama crew, because that's the other thing that we're up against in the South, is that they think we all stupid. Atlanta's an anomaly. Alabama don't know what they're doing. Most anything that's shot in Alabama is because it happened there. It's usually something biographical, and that's the only reason you're shooting there in the first place. So it's better if we can shoot something present day, because I promise you, the industry goes back and they talk. The first thing they're gonna start asking each other is, did you shoot on that thing in Alabama? How was it? Was it good? Was it fun? Was the crew competent? Did everybody have a good time? And that's the battle that I'm fighting right now. And so once you start building that, and then you start working at the state level, then you're able to do more and more things that get you a studio that's in Birmingham proper, and you got a cool mayor that's 36, and he gonna green light some incentives and returns, and then before they know it, it's all blackity black, and it's too late.
You guys, we want to thank these guys for coming today.